They say that one dance a day keeps the evil spirits away. But what if I told you that one dance a day could send you into a crazed frenzy, making you dance for days on end without any music or rhyme? Would you take the risk? Well, if you had lived in 16th century Europe, you wouldn't have to. Because between July and October of 1518, there was a mysterious dancing plague that swept through the streets of Strasbourg, killing some of the most notable citizens. This is the disturbing story of the dancing plague of 1518. It all started with a married woman named Frau Troffea. She was a seemingly ordinary housewife living in the prosperous, free imperial city of Strasbourg, which at the time was a prominent cultural and artistic hub. Now, little is known about Frau Troffea because she didn't leave behind any documents or records. But from the accounts of those who witnessed her strange behavior, we can piece together her tragic tale. On July 14, 1518, Troffea was attending a local festival in the market square when suddenly she began to dance. At first, it seemed like your typical drunken revelry, the kind of thing that people do when they let loose at weddings and other celebrations. But then something peculiar happened. Troffea began to gyrate violently, contorting her body into unnatural positions. She spun around in circles, jumped up and down, and even scratched and bit people who tried to stop her. And to make matters worse, she did this for days on end. This wasn't like any dance anyone had seen before. It was wild, erratic, and completely unhinged. So naturally, people were scared. They thought maybe Troffea had been possessed by a demon or bewitched by a rival. But after she collapsed from exhaustion, a priest came to bless her, and an exorcist performed a ritual over her. But none of it worked. The more people tried to help her, the more violent and uncontrollable she became. And then, after 5 days of non-stop dancing, she died right in the middle of the market square. If that's where the story ended, it would have been a bizarre footnote in history, just another case of mass hysteria. But unfortunately, it didn't, because just 2 weeks later, on August 2nd, another person was struck down. His name was Ludwig Herzog, and he was a well-respected member of the community, the son of a wealthy merchant. He, too, was dancing at the same festival in the marketplace when he suddenly collapsed and began convulsing. This time, though, people were better prepared. They quickly called an exorcist who managed to restrain him and perform the ritual. But when the ceremony was over, Ludwig went right back into his frenzied dance. Over the next week, the dancing plague continued to spread. First it hit the nobility, then the clergy, then commoners. All told, more than 400 people were infected. Some danced for days, some for weeks, and every single one of them died from exhaustion or injury. To make matters worse, there was no rhyme or reason to the attacks. People of all ages and social classes were susceptible, but only about half of them survived. To understand how this could have happened, let's look at what was going on at the time. The year is 1518, and Europe is in the midst of the Renaissance. New ideas are spreading about the world and humanity's place in it. Art, science, and culture are flourishing, and people are starting to question traditional beliefs and practices. In Germany, there's been a recent surge in interest in paganism and witchcraft. People are drawn to these new ideas because they offer an alternative to the strict rules and regulations of medieval society. They also provide a way to explain the unexplainable, like the dancing plague. In fact, many of the townspeople believed that the dancing plague was caused by witches or evil spirits. That's why they turned to the clergy for help. But the church was powerless to stop the plague. The priests and exorcists tried everything they could think of, but nothing worked. As the dancing plague continued to spread, people became increasingly desperate. They made pilgrimages to holy sites, prayed for miracles, and sacrificed animals, but still the dancing continued. In the end, all they were left with was fear and despair. What caused the dancing plague has never been fully explained, but historians have come up with several theories. One popular theory is that the dancing plague was caused by rye ergot poisoning. Rye ergot is a fungus that grows on rye grain. It can cause hallucinations, convulsions, and uncontrolled movements. People who eat contaminated rye flour can experience symptoms that resemble the dancing plague, including St. Vitus dance, a neurological disorder that causes involuntary dance-like movements. But there's another possible explanation for the dancing plague. Some historians believe that it was a form of mass psychogenic illness, also known as mass hysteria. Mass hysteria occurs when a group of people experience similar physical or psychological symptoms with no identifiable cause. It's often triggered by stress or anxiety, and it can spread quickly through a population. There's evidence that mass hysteria was widespread in the 16th century. People were constantly on edge, not only because of the plague, but also because of war, famine, and religious persecution. Any one of these could have triggered the dancing plague. And once it started, it quickly spread through the close-knit community of Strasbourg. It is also worth noting that the symptoms of mass hysteria can vary depending on the culture and time period. In the 16th century, the dominant belief was that the dancing plague was caused by witchcraft or evil spirits. This led to people being accused of being witches and put to death. So what can we learn from the dancing plague? For one, it shows us the power of belief. If enough people believe that something is true, then it becomes true for them. This is why it is important to be aware of our own biases and to be willing to challenge our beliefs. The dancing plague also teaches us about the importance of empathy. When we see someone suffering, we want to help. But sometimes our attempts to help can do more harm than good. In the case of the dancing plague, the people of Strasbourg were trying to help those who were ill, but their efforts only made things worse. Finally, the dancing plague reminds us of the importance of understanding. When something bad happens, we want to find someone to blame. But often the cause of our problems is not clear. Instead of pointing the finger, it is important to try to understand what really happened so that we can prevent it from happening again. In the end, the dancing plague was a tragedy. It killed hundreds of people and devastated the community of Strasbourg. But it also gives us an important lesson about ourselves and how we interact with the world around us. Thanks for watching. Do you think you could resist the urge to dance for days on end without sleep or food? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video, please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching. See you soon.